I would have chosen to be a judge. The nuances would only be provided by the human being. AI is a reality today. Younger generation to be
Welcome to the Bharat Manthan series. Bharat Manthan is about the people who has a lot of experience coming up with in different areas, and we would like that experience to be enriched by the next generation to convert and converge India 2047. So today we are pleased to welcome Dr. Meena Singh Roy, who is a research fellow and heads the West Asia Center at the Institute of Defense Studies and Analysis. Her areas of specialization are into Central Asia and West Asia. And prior joining to IDSA, she was a senior research scholar in the Department of African Studies, Delhi University. She is also associated with the Institute of Commonwealth Studies, School of Oriental and African Studies, and London School of Economics for her research work. In 2014, she was a visiting research fellow with the German Institute of Global and Area Studies, Institute of Asian Studies. So coming up with the enriched experience of a lot of decades. So, Meena, you would like to start with, because your journey, it's purely academic, strategic research, and policy analysis. So, we'd like to take you back into your early years and want to know what first drew you towards the defense and geopolitical studies, because it's not a normal routine people take. It's different. So, how you have chosen this route, we would like to know.
let me at the outset thank you, Richa, for this opportunity. And it is indeed a pleasure for me to be joining this debate and dialogue with you. And I'd be very happy to share my experience. I'm a former MP IDSA. I've served there for 2 decades plus now. And I still continue to, help the youth and the younger lot, and still associated with many forums and institutes and universities. So it's always pleasure, to be talking to younger generation, and if I can contribute anything to it. Now, you asked me the journey, from student days to my entry in the Manohar Parrikar Institute for Defense Studies and Analysis. But prior to that, let me tell you, as a student, we were in an era when there was more, I would say, enthusiasm, anxiety, and debate about socialism, and how the colonial powers exploited the third world. So it was more revolutionary in your mind, that you wanted to read and write. It was also an era of Soviet Union as a one pole and United States of America at the other pole. And there were many countries which were getting liberated at that point in time. So geopolitics became a part of the debate even as a student. And let me tell you, I mean, this was probably my destiny. To come here as a kid, I was wanting to study law, which is very different. But
Hmm.
being a daughter of a person who was in services, we used to roam around different places, and not necessarily you get what you want, and sometimes the destiny pulls you. I qualified the entrance for both, for the law and for other programs. So it was, I think, the atmosphere in and around, and somehow I think the continent which fascinated me the most was Africa. And that pulled me in the direction of taking and studying what was happening at that point in time in Africa, in South Africa, the apartheid regime which was there. So even my MPhil and PhD was related to these aspects: sanctions and democracy, and how there was being the apartheid was being remodeled at that point in time. So I think it was development in and around, and what you read shapes the mind when you are a young person. And then comes the period when you are exposed to the reality in life and what is doable at that point in time. So I think that's how I started with my work, and then I did my master's in political science, and got towards the area studies program, which is Africa. And from there, when I came back from England, I was married to an army officer, which did not allow me to, take something which was positioned at one place. So we had an option either to do something sitting at home. And when my husband got posted, I gave a little gap. I did not work. I mean, I had an offer, I had worked with some very important people while I was in UK. I worked with African National Congress because my PhD was on sanctions. And what I see today is a repeat of what was happening in 90s, So things are still the same, but approach has been different. We have technology, we have many issues which are related. There's much more I can talk about it, but let's hear what you have to ask me next.
So I think I would say because every scholar has a North Star. North Star, I mean the core curiosity, the sleepless nights, book chapters, field research. So Africa is something which was for you at that time,
So
right? And as you mentioned, yeah, you have participated in a lot many things which related to it. It's really commendable because at that time, thinking about Africa is itself a step which normally people don't take. So kudos
Let
to you
me
for that.
let
Yeah.
me just interrupt for a minute and tell you, the most fascinating aspect for a student. I was based in Harare, and for my research work, of course, and the day Nelson Mandela was released, I was in Harare. So I think it was the time when our passports were not even valid in South Africa. So it was very rejuvenating, and you feel like seeing that man who's a
Yeah, the
legend.
experience.
So anyways, it just struck me, so I thought I must
Yeah, it is actually the experience which is you have lived, and we can easily show that in your words coming out. So yeah, great to know that. Now, if we move, if you look at the map today, right now the global conflicts are volatile, fracturing the world's traditional energy pipelines. Sitting right in the middle are the five Central Asian stands, which you see, floating on an obsolete ocean of oil and natural gas. So, in a perfect word, they are India's ultimate ticket to long-term energy security. But we see it as a paradox. Resources are there, intent is there, but the geography seems to be a nightmare. So we would like to know from you, like in the today's fractured world, do you see Central Asia uh, becoming India's ultimate anchor for energy security, or do you see like geography or the rival superpowers always keep us at the arm's length for that?
I think, when we talk about Central Asia, the five stans, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan,
Hmm.
Turkmenistan, uh, this region, I feel is a very unique region, which its own identity, which its own very important soul, and the connect which India has. Yes, it's a resource rich region.
Hmm.
I think more importantly, I would say it's a region, which is very strategically placed. It is Eurasia, which connects, Asia with Europe.
Hmm.
And for a very long time, it was part of the Soviet Union. But we had been connected through history, through millennia. You see, you talk about, you must have read as a student about Bukhara, about
Hmm.
Mullah Nasruddin and the stories. And, probably if we go and test the DNA, some of the, one Uzbek lady who I met, during my one of the visits, said my DNA is with India. She got it tested somewhere in US when she was. So there is that civilizational, connect with India. Number one, that is what we
Hmm.
need to understand. Energy and resources, of course, we also need to know that this is the region which was basically controlled and by the Soviet Union. And this was the region where people talked about the great game being played out. But I think, then and now, the great game was played, but these people, these stans were not part of it. But today, when they say the new great game, I say the new part of it is that these smaller countries, are part of that game, and very, I would say, positively, very constructively, they have been able to use their strengths. Now, they are sandwiched between the three major, one side they have Soviet Union, the other side they have China, and then they have the smaller Asian partners. So for India, it is very important when we talk about the energy security. The role of the major powers will continue to be there, and it has been changing. The interest in this region, I would say, has been changing for United States. I mean, 9/11 brought the very, significant dimension of their involvement. Prior to that, it was capping of nuclear weapon. And now, of course, the role of China and Russia again. But amid all this, India has been, a very accepted partner. There's been much more expectations from India, and they are landlocked. So when it comes to the energy security for India, I always say this is a strategic space where India has to be involved, where India has to see how best it can get involved in the energy sector. It is not important that you get the Central Asian energy through pipelines. You can get involved, invest, be part of the energy game which is being played out there. And then, use it to your advantage. You invest here, earn, and you can buy it anywhere. There can be a swap deal, stuff like that. So there are ways you can get involved in the energy sector of this country. But we also have to be mindful of how difficult, what are the challenges there. India can do a lot. We have elevated our position, in terms of our partnership, the partnership which is based on, win-win situation. But I'm also a bit disappointed because my expectations probably are much higher than what is being done. So there have to be, continuity and sustainability in what we promise and what we do, because that is what will give us, strength and more, I would say, power. When you say India is looking at becoming, it is a major player. It is it has its advantages, but there are even certain limitations. But I think the strength of India would only be, accepted when we turn those challenges into opportunities.
True. That is true. Yeah. Very well said, because we also think the same about it, that this is a place where India needs to sped up, step up again and do some more wonders. And we can nurture that because we already have, as you
I think
mentioned,
we
historical
have to
relationship with them.
understand the strength of people.
Mm.
I don't know, Richa, if you've ever traveled to this part of the world, but please do travel. You will see the love, affection, connect, people to people connect.
Mm.
Whether we're talking about, cultural connect, whether it is art and music, whether it is religious connect, whether it is, strategic connect now. And I think we have to ensure as a major player when we are thinking about Amrit Kal and how we would play out, in future, we need to ensure the balanced approach that we take. Central Asia should be priority despite our limitations, and we have to sustain and fulfill the promises given to them.
True, true, very true. So I'll take you into a different era now, because you have studied a modern geopolitics. You have been studying it quite a long time. But India's strategic traditions go back to Kautilya. So do you think today's world leaders still acknowledging it and unknowingly following their principles as well?
World leaders, I can't say, there's a great diversity today. If we are talking about President Trump, we don't know what he is going to do next day, whether they follow the principle or not. But I think we, as an Indian with a rich history and with, the studies on Kautilya, very well tell you the strengths of India. It is the history, that gives you a lot of strength. You have to actually decipher what Kautilya said and whatever is there in our text. And let me also, use this platform to advertise the kind of research which was done in MP IDSA on Kautilya. We had a very strong group of young students led by a former Colonel Gautam, who was very passionate about the Kautilya studies. And this attracted the attention of many scholars in Germany, and there was interaction. And our library still has a very good collection of work on Kautilya. So Kautilya is not only a strategist, but he did provide as to how do you strengthen the kingdom, how do you provide strength and name and fame in every aspect, I would say, whether it is geoeconomics or geopolitics. So in both the directions, the study of Kautilya is so helpful. And fortunately, we are coming back to our own strengths, our own studies. I mean, you see the foreign minister talking about Mahabharata and, Lord Hanuman as the major, doot, the diplomacy which is tried by him. So I think we are trying to project the strength of India and not just go on and keep studying. There is no harm in understanding and reading the China, which is also a civilizational power. Then you Iran, I mean, which is being attacked today. You see the strength of that civilizational power. Turkey and the Europe, the Spain. So I think each country, Egypt, each country has its own strengths, and we have so much to talk. We have so much to tell. We have so much to learn from our own scripts and our own strategic thinkers. That there is I'm happy that that drive is there, and today I'm also listening from you the very attention which is given to Kautilya. I think gives me a pleasure, that the effort which an institute like IDSA has been doing, and it has spread all over. It is, whether we talk about ORF or many other, think tanks which have come up. But the study on Kautilya is something which should also become part of our school curriculum today. That is what I would love to have. Some more chapters, some more. It is part of history. You talk about Chanakya. We have many stories, and let's also bring in the stories of Panchatantra, which should be spread all over the world. It is the message. It is the idea when you say the moral of the stories, which you don't get because the Western literature is so overpowering today that one has forgotten the very strength of Indian literature, Indian poets, Indian strategic thinkers. I think we need to talk more about that. We need to project more our literature, our strengths. So what if it is in Hindi? I mean, Hindi बोलने में हमें क्यों शर्म आती है? आप अंग्रेजी सीखिए, लेकिन इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि आप अपने ओरिजिनल रूट्स को ही भूल जाए। तो हमें हमारा लिटरेचर और प्रोजेक्ट करना है, हमें हमारा लिटरेचर जिस भी फॉर्म में हम करना चाहें, हमें करना चाहिए। स्कूलों में हमें और कौटिल्य के बारे में बताना है, पंचतंत्र की स्टोरीज को हमको और एडवर्टाइज करना है। हमें अगर उनको फ्री गिफ्ट करना पड़े तो वो भी करना चाहिए हमें। That is what I feel. You learn as many languages as you can. And we are multicultural, multilinguistic country, which is our strength.
Yes, very true. In fact, Kautilya, why I brought up, I am also very fascinated by it. But yeah, not doing a research kind of thing. But yeah, this is something I would say it is more on the shoulders of a mother lady because they are the ones who are nurturing the new generation. Absolutely. So if we can spread that word in this community, I'm sure because every mother is looking for something good for their kid. They don't want to put, rubbish or the garbage to their kids. True, but point is, things are not available as such. It's a social media where you will not find any Kautilya animated stories, but you will find a lot of animated things. Yes, we have to.
And I think you guys can take it forward.
True. Because I think we will see that how we can reform it also because children need good content to watch. Whatever be the forum, whether it's Dadi Nanis who are telling that
Tenali
or
Ram
just
की stories हैं which are inspirational. हमने मुल्ला नसरुद्दीन के बारे में भी पढ़ा, तेनाली राम के भी बारे में पढ़ा. So पंचतंत्र की stories हमने पढ़ी. अब पंचतंत्र की story आपको कोई recommend क्यों नहीं करता है?
And they are proven from civilization that they
Absolutely.
have
And
worked wonders with their
I
human
would like
culture.
to say that we need to, in international book fairs, Panchatantra stories should get more focus.
More place. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, true. Right. So we have talked a lot about it, and it is very good conversation, and it is something which the next generation should look forward. Plus, we have to re-educate because we have, listened all of us on my generation also. They have listened the word, but yeah, we have to go deep and be a brand masters for that. Now, if we talk about India specifically, we know we have shown that India is emerging as a very confident about its hard power, military, economy, technology. But you being a researcher, scholar, and sitting on those, platforms, what is your opinion that how we are prepared for these soft powers, like for ideas, culture, academic, and the global narratives, which we just talked about? That is actually we are working on this soft power to be more powerful here as well.
I think the soft power is our strength. And fortunately, I can say that one credit which, regardless of the, you need the political will and a political leader to project that soft power, right? The leadership is very, very important. And fortunately, Prime Minister Modi has been able to use this soft power, project it across India, whether we talk about yoga, whether we talk about culture. So I think the cultural connect, the strength of soft power is being utilized very beautifully, and it has the other part is the acceptability of it. Whether we see it in Central Asia, whether we see it in West Asia, UAE, we have I mean, I don't think I could ever imagine in the Islamic world and the Muslim world, you would ever be allowed to make a temple in their country. So that
Hmm.
is the strength of India. And I think the soft part. More importantly, I would say yoga, which is not, it is not religion. It is about the welfare of your body, your mind, your soul. And I think that has gone viral internationally. It has been accepted. It has been so. This I'm very satisfied that we are trying, and much more should be done about it. The spiritual content of India's culture, India's soft power is something which has attracted the attention not now, but many years back as well. So that is what I would say is a success story. There is need to do more. There is need to utilize it. I call it a force multiplier, right? If we are looking at building bonds with people, if we are looking at strengthening bilateral relation, if we are looking at strengthening the regional cooperation, these things are free of geopolitics. There is no
True.
geopolitics in this. As I said, it is about human mind, human health, human well-being. I mean, so this is more acceptable, and this is what is our strength. And this is one. So soft power, I think, is India's strength, and it needs to be utilized to the maximum. On the hard power, I think we need to do much more, and that is where the limitation, the technology part of it comes in. India has to invest more in research and development. I think that is where we lack. I mean, why do we have to see Google and this Meena Singh Roy, as Sulabh says? Why should it be at Gmail? Why can't it be some Indian thing? So I think
Yes.
that is, and Indian minds are brilliant. In every, whether it is Google, whether it is Gmail, whether it is, you talk about an industry, you talk about a tech firm, you have an Indian mind contributing there. So
True.
I think we need to ensure that this Indian mind is working more for India,
Yeah, true.
right?
In
And
fact,
Indian
I think
technology, I think we are not where we should be. It's a long way, and we need to invest more in education and technology. And that's, but we have the best brains in India as well.
yeah,
So how
true.
do we utilize it to India's advantage remains for the government
The-
of India to see to it that there is more contribution here in India.
Yeah. And then I would say when we come to the soft power, I think all of the Indians are the flag bearers for that. If we all change a little and to come
Exactly.
into that mindset, we can do a lot.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think individually we are doing it. Every Indian which goes abroad, I mean, you have so many Indians and Chinese which have, I mean, they are the ones who flooded even the West today.
Mm.
And Indians are very acceptable. There are three people I would say, the Japanese, the Indian, and the Koreans. They are not seen with some kind of dubious, ways of doing things. They are seen as more acceptable people, who are contributing, who, I mean, even as a nation, I think these three countries are much more acceptable as compared to others.
Mm. So nice. Very good to know about this catalog, and we really worked out on it. And I would say the very candid conversation we did on the few of the topics touching upon. So I would like you to take you to the next segment, which is our myth or reality. So
Mhm.
it's just there are some myths which are floating in the market, which are common people see to it. But yeah, we would like to know from an expertise eye what you think about it. So first statements is AI, artificial intelligence will replace the human researchers. Do you think it's a myth or a reality?
I think it's a mix of both. There are certain perceptions which you call myth, and there
Hmm.
is a reality. So I would say AI is a reality today,
Hmm.
and we need to accept it. And we need to ensure that we adapt to this reality. There would be technology, as I said, is a double edged sword. How you use it will depend on your adaptability and your preparedness. So, having spoken to many people who have their expertise, particularly in the AI, it helps the researcher do fast research. It helps every profession, uh, to go faster. What we used to do in past, spending so much of time, trying to explore. You press a button and everything is right in front of you. But I think the challenge here is that use the human brain. AI is a data center, right? It has such a capability and storage of data of all. I mean, any, whether Japanese, Canadian, African, American, every, person, the data is being collected, right? AI is all
Hmm.
about data and how you use that data, right? Now, the can human mind be replaced by AI? There is a debate. Some people say yes, the others say no. So there are skills which AI will not be able to replace, right? Now, we have to ensure that the loss because of the AI is something which can be directed towards the areas which the AI can't do. Technology doesn't give you answer to everything, right?
Hmm.
Your thinking, your process. If the data tells you whatever data is there, they say this is the answer to it. But the nuances that the data doesn't know. The nuances
True.
will only be provided by the human beings. Human being has created AI, right?
Hmm.
So you
Yeah.
have to ensure the negative impact of the AI, and at the same time prepare your society, prepare your youth to get into the sector where you can utilize the AI to your advantage. And I think there's lack of information. There is a greater fear which is being created that AI is going to take away everyone's job. Yes, it is going to take away many jobs, and the process has already started. But one needs to understand that one has to adapt to these realities and prepare the youth and everybody
Yeah. Yeah.
to use it to your advantage. But we can't do, as I said, you can't swim against the current. You have to swim, with, you have to flow
With the
with
flow.
the current. You
Correct.
can't, you will be struggling so much that you would get tired and exhausted. So we have to find the ways to adapt to this new, I said, opportunity as well as a challenge.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I think it is more on like working as a catalyst for you. It's not just here to replace you. So you can work as a catalyst and move faster. Whatever you were doing
I think
earlier
this is the
can be done
discovery of human
faster.
mind. What do? Human beings are intelligent species, right?
Mm.
But they are also very damaging, what we see, today, you have to pay the price at times, for certain comforts. Be it your AC, it is also generating heat, right? But you got used to it. Now, what do you do? How do you manage? You plant more trees, you create more green. You have to balance it out in some ways or the other. That is what AI is. That is what I feel. But the perception is that there's a certain fear, and I think more information has to be spread in each sector,
Hmm.
and that becomes the responsibility of the people. Tell, even in school and college, in universities, and in other offices, there should be a special class, giving the real account of what AI can do and what AI can't do, and
Hmm.
where you need to adapt to.
Adapt to it.
Exactly. That is what
Hmm.
I feel. That's my take on it. I'm not a technology person,
Yeah, no,
but
no, that's really fine, and in fact, that is being done also in many of the schools. You see, there are a lot of these kinds of convocations are happening, conclaves are happening, which is specifically mentioned for the school grades from 5 till 12th. So
true.
they are making them aware of it, and there are a lot of programs being done on it. And I think, yeah, it's rightly said that, and the example you quote for the AC was fantabulous, which everyone can understand because everybody is switching on the
Yeah.
AC in this heat these days. So yeah, we have
You
to
can't
manage
live
it.
without it. You
Yeah.
become so used to it that we've lived without AC at some points. There wasn't. It was all cooler, but we still survived. We still flourished. But now, that's what I'm saying.
That's a
The
necessity. Yeah,
body
true.
adapts to the changes, mind adapts to the changes. And
Hmm.
this is how you do it.
Yeah.
You cannot stop progress. Maybe, it gets delayed for some time, but it cannot be stopped. Exposure cannot be stopped.
Hmm. Okay, so I move to the next statement now. So normally women bring a natural, more collaborative, peace-oriented approach to global conflicts. Uh, but when it comes to the hard power, intelligence, national defense, strategic logic, do you think it has something to related with the gender? Like women can do better or men can do better? So
I
what do you
think
think about it?
these are two different species, men and women.
Hmm.
And they have to complement each other's strengths. That is what I feel. The complementarity is the essence of, working together. But I do feel I'm a hardcore feminist, but I am gender neutral as well, because I personally feel that in India and throughout the world, I would say women have been deprived of certain role. There are traditional role which women is conceived to be playing. Beyond that, there has not been much thinking. Whereas women are stronger, women have more adaptability. Women also knows how to make the best use of the strength that they have. Men are comparatively weaker. I'm not saying physically. So, what physically men can do, women, it also depends
Hmm.
on your race as well, your society, your environment. Certain roles are very region specific for women. Let's say the American women and the Israeli women, who their societies are very different. They have accepted women's role even in the hard power, and they've been trained and projected like that. But that has
Hmm.
yet to come in the Asian context, if we say. And there is a sea change today. You have women pilots, you have women fighters, but even when it comes to the war zone, there women will have to pay more price if they are involved there. So if we want to protect, that there will be, certain role which women are, I would say, better, placed to play, as
Hmm.
compared to men. So I think with those differences, I would say there is certain place for women which should be taken, and but those changes are already happening. But they are happening only in the big cities. So we need to get to the smaller towns and villages. Indian women are not the women who are only in Bombay, Chennai, Bangalore. We have a lot of work to do when it comes to the empowerment of the women. We still see many stories, of women being exploited. So I think there is a long way for Indians. I'm not talking about the other places, but here in India, we have to work on ground in villages, in rural areas. Let's not forget, we have a huge
Huge
rural
population.
population today. And women are there very strong as well. They don't have
Yes.
exposure. Nobody has any opportunity. Nobody has education. This is where I say education and R&D is very important. What women have contributed and will contribute, be it politics, be it geopolitics, be it security, be it defense. In IDSA, I was told there was only one lady, Sudesh Rana, during K. Subramaniam's time. No women when I met her. So she said, now I feel so good seeing women in the, defense and security studies that it gives me immense pleasure. So now there are many women, who are part and parcel of studies and programs and research and, science and technology as well. Space.
Mm.
Look at Hyderabad. Look at our space centers. Women are playing a very important role. But there is more which needs to be done.
True. I totally agree with you because women are stepping out everywhere now. And good part is they are ready to stand for themselves now.
Not
I would
only
say.
that, there is greater acceptability as parents as well.
Mm.
So I think that change in the social fabric in this society is, from my point of view, when parents would dissuade, their girl child to only get into medicine or education, but that's not the case today. I think that's a positive development, but I'm not saying, this is enough. There is much more which is required because we have only probably seen not even 50% of the women population there.
Yeah. True. Okay, so a lot of potential at the women's side. Now I'm moving to the next segment, Meena ji, and it's about the one-word segment. So I'll give you some statements, and whatever you think can mention in the limited words. I would not restrict to one word only, but yeah. So one leader, one word leader, you find just strategically fascinating.
One world leader. That's a difficult proposition, but I would still say that the existing one, not the past one, right? Today. I am a big fan of Putin.
Putin.
Yes. I feel, not everything that he does, but certainly for a country, the way he has brought Russia back into global arena. Let's not talk about, Ukraine war or how whatever has happened, but as a leader, who brought the name and fame of Russia back the international arena. So that, for me,
You're
it's
fascinated.
very fascinating. And I feel even Prime Minister Modi, the way he has changed the perception of India, abroad, I think it is fascinating. But in past, if you say, I have many other leaders who really influenced my thought process, as I said, Vijay Lakshmi, Sheila Dikshit, I would say, as a woman, she has done a lot for Delhi. We go back to Europe. There are many names I can say. Even Golda Meir in Israel. There are so many women that I personally feel. But if in present context, the two leaders who I feel have done much to elevate the status of the country. People will criticize Putin, people will criticize Prime Minister Modi, but these two people have been able to,
make the difference for their own countries.
People would project a lot of things about Putin negatively. So no human being, I would say, is perfect.
Perfect, of course.
There are some weaknesses, some strengths, but for me, people may get surprised. But the Russian glory, in many ways, he must have done something. I'm not saying he's perfect, but when we talk about world leader, what does it mean? It means that something should attract you towards that individual.
Sure.
And they have done much for their nation. Yes. Yes. It is for their national glory. It is for their national identity. It is also to make their nation great.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so next is one misconception people commonly have about West Asia.
See, misconception about West Asia has been that it is It is the most volatile region, where only conflicts will, but there are certain sectors where, you have people who are peaceful also. It is not only about war. It is an imposed war. It is being a region which has been, a victim of external intervention. It has been also a victim because of the geography, the resources, and the religion. There are internal issues that nobody is denying that fact. But, there is diversity in these countries as well. There are strengths which people don't even know because people haven't traveled. The demonization of Iran or demonization of some other country because people don't know what it is. Reading, literature, Western literature, and not the region specific. So lack of knowledge, I think, is the biggest uh, misconception or misperception. So
For the
when
West.
you go on ground, then you understand what is the ground reality. So overall, it is all about the religious wars, the conflict, and everything. But nobody sees the reality that it's the same people. They want progress. You see UAE, you see even changes in Saudi Arabia today. You go and see what Egypt is all about. So it is not the only, perception that they are going to collapse next day. That is not what is going to happen. They will survive. They will also come back, bounce back. So let's not have that kind of a misperception and understand, how the external intervention have been there. And unfortunately, this was also about the insecurity within the smaller. So it's a big power, small power syndrome as well. People don't understand that.
True. Okay, so if Meena Singh Roy is not a researcher, what would you have chosen?
I would have chosen to be a judge.
Judge?
Legal, yes. That
Okay.
was what I was always wanting to be, but maybe my destiny was more in this direction in academics. That's what I said. Even my father, felt that I should be in a profession where, as a woman, I can contribute more. I can. So maybe there was some I would say understanding in their minds that the strength of women is to build society and not pass judgments.
Okay.
Maybe that was their perception.
Then.
But I always got fascinated by
Yeah.
getting into a legal, not realizing, but as a child, I told you, I wanted to get into the legal,
Legal.
but maybe my destiny was pulling me to this direction.
Nice. Okay, so one last thing, one last message, what you would like to give our younger generation.
I would tell the younger generation to be more adventurous. I would like the younger generation to keep a balance between technology and health. I would like the younger generation to sit and read more and not just get glued to the very attractive and addictive, phone which is there. And I would like youth to be grounded and respect its roots.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you so much for your sharing, not only your insights, but your reflections on the experience which you have taken out, the knowledge, and the India's future. And this conversation actually reminded us that diplomacy is not just about the nations, it is about the ideas, patience, people, their culture. And from the Kautilya's wisdom to this AI age, the future will belong to those who can think deeply and act ethically. So thank
I
you
think the
so
future
much.
is for the India and Indians.
Yeah, thank you so much, Meena ji.
No, it is pleasure. Thank you so much. Thank you.